This will be interesting.
Right. So I've learned a lot of lessons, and
Mm-hmm.
I've not got a tool for you, but I feel incredibly close, which is the frustrating thing. And I only started it on Friday night.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And weekend's weekend. Okay,
But
so
I did spend all day on it today, and I came a long way, but I don't know the best way to present my findings because it's been as much about figuring out how to use the tools as it has been about building the thing. Look, I'll just show you where I ended up at, and then you can ask some questions, and we can go over history if we think that that's useful. So I
yeah.
was using O1 Pro, and I made sure to save all of my chats that were related to it, so that you could, because I knew you'd be asking about it later.
Oh, under projects. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for example, I was doing, like feeding in the whole code base and kind of asking it for do this task and that was all good. And so the approach I'd taken was using LiveKit, which does specializes in low latency, high quality WebRTC calls and orchestration and all that. And one of the big problems with the models right now is they got this out of date knowledge base from October 2023, so it wasn't aware of the latest settings, the latest configuration options and functions within the SDKs that are out today.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yep.
annoying. So then I had to do things like try and generate docs that were friendly um, to the AI, so it could have a fighting chance, and that worked. I think that might actually be a valuable service to provide people as like a global share of docs that are curated specifically for an LLM to ingest. So it's
Mm.
like taking the time to turn images into ASCII diagrams or mermaid diagrams so that the LLMs, without using image recognition, can understand the docs. But moreover, I think that whatever framework gets made from now on, first and foremost, you want to release it with the bots in mind. So you want to release it with docs and other things that have been evaled to be effectively consumed by a bot. So you can teach it your framework very rapidly.
Which is LaTeX, right? I assume.
The docs,
Yeah. We were talking. You were talking yesterday about. Was it yesterday? About the effectiveness of LaTeX.
f- for specs, not for docs.
Okay.
Documents being like the manual of how do I use this library and all that.
Okay.
I'd been using LaTeX for the mathematical specification of algorithms and specs, but I actually abandoned that now because for algorithms, yes, that's good, and for O1 Pro, yeah, that's good, but O1 Pro doesn't really know about visual stuff or front ends,
Mm-hmm.
and so um, like, is this a good use of your time where I'm telling you the history of how I came to be where I am now over the
Uh,
last few days?
yeah. Yes, it is. It'll
Yeah.
be
Okay.
helpful.
All right. Just
Yeah.
tell me to hurry up or slow down or whatever. Um, if you find some parts mundane, but um, because I was just cycling back and forth between O1 Pro and I had this idea in my head on how the thing should work, and then it sort of needed the latest docs, and so then I had to go in there and understand the docs, and I did realize through doing that actually whatever frameworks or tools I want the bot to code in, I need to understand them too, is because I need to be able to comment on the architecture that the bot chooses and why, because there is actually a lot of the problem seems to be hidden context. It's context that I have of what I want that I haven't expressed and may not be able to express in a time efficient way. But when the bot does it, and I'm like, oh, I don't, I don't want it like that. I want it like this, and so I have to understand all the pieces that are going into it for me to be able to make those kinds of decisions for the bot. So I was going back and forth with O1, and I got a long way down the road with it, and I had a working little app, which I'll show you just for shits and giggles, because you can see the evolution of the failure. Here was a little thing. So I made this, and it sort of worked. You could press record, you could press stop, and then it would upload it to a S3 bucket, blah, blah, blah. Very simple front end. One might even say insufficient front end. But that was running on DinoDeploy, was written by O1 Pro. It was using LiveKit with their library, was doing a lot of fancy stuff in the background. And what I realized was that all the way along I'd been fighting with LiveKit to use this really overcomplicated thing, but really I only cared about the mic stream going in. I didn't care about it being broadcast out to other people. I didn't care that it was low latency. It highlighted a further complication where, in order for me to save the recording from LiveKit, I had to then connect LiveKit servers up to my S3 bucket and make sure that all worked correctly. And so that consumed quite a bit of time troubleshooting that, because, when it's you to the cloud, that's one set of kind, but when it's like cloud to cloud, the troubleshooting sucks. So that burned a lot of time, and then I, got this thing up and running. But then I realized that the architecture was wrong. And so this highlights a rather interesting development of being able to write code so fast, is that normally that would have taken, at least a week, I'd say, to use this framework enough to realize it was wrong. But because I could do it so fast with O1 Pro, I was able to suddenly be like, this is feeling really hard. What's the sort of, where we at? And that's when I came up with the architecture of just recording just the mic input from each person, and then uploading it to the bucket through a Deno service, or basically a hosted service, because that seemed a lot better. And so then I was vigorously oh, that's the thing to do. So O1 and we went off and we started doing that some more. And then we came up with a program called MicSplice. I think.
Is this yours or is this someone else's?
No, this is ours. I made it. And that was when I was trying to make it using Next.js, or a whole other framework. Sorry, this one came before the one that you just saw on Deno. This was using the LiveKit starter pack. I don't know if it's gonna help you much to see it, but I just felt like this is very, very annoying. Anyway, that was actually quite a big project, and it took a lot of time because there was the thing that's still the bot doesn't really help with much is the configuration of the different cloud services. And so when you're going back and forth trying to
Because
get,
it's out of date.
well, not
Is that
just because it's out of date, but it's just like to get it working with each service, now you need to connect them up, and the bot can't do that for you. And so that sort of says, well, Naps would be ideal for that because Naps have got no setup effectively. You set up one thing and then
Yeah.
off you go,
Yeah,
right?
and we're talking about that API service.
And yeah, and the API service, and you got to go sign up for this and sign up for that, and then you're worried about billing here, billing there, and then you got all these weird conditions like on a free plan, if you make a public bucket, you have to spend $1. And then I was like, okay, pay the money. Why isn't the money working? Oh, the address for your credit card has to be either the country you're in or the country it's registered to. I was like, oh Christ. And then, and it's on and on and on, right? And then it's all just burning time. And then I eventually was like, well, my UI sucks. So I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to go to so I came back to V0, which is, a system that I like. And V0 is, I'm not sure what bot's running under the hood. Please load. Why? Why so difficult? You have the internet because I'm looking at you on VR goggles. Here we go, right. So, if I go back. Something went wrong. Alright, so then I was like, make me a UI. And so with a bit of chatting, I ended up with this sort of thing. Right, and it was like, I was like, that's pretty cool, especially since I didn't have to do it myself, which I'm always keen for. And then I was like, okay, oh dear. Then I was like, oh, we need to get real time messaging in, because if I'm gonna run it in V0 favors Vercel, and Vercel is a cloud hosting service that isn't Deno Deploy. And so Deno Deploy has this neat feature that allows real-time message passing between browser tabs. So you come in from the UK, I come in from the colonies, and then Deno can, like, even though we came into Edge servers, I can still message in real time between us. So now I needed to, have that feature, and Vercel doesn't have that feature, right? So I'm like, well, crumbs, what do I do? Okay, so then I got it to start with this UI and then include Supabase, which is a database system thing. And then it did that pretty well. And then I was just like, okay, well, now I want you to use Supabase to store the data or the records. And then so we went through that. And then it started to get, the code file started getting big and it started making errors. And so I needed to do this one's getting quite long. And so I needed to do refactoring or guide it through refactoring to pull apart the system so that its error rate went down, because it's good at small changes to little files. Yeah.
I'm wondering, and I hate to say this, um, whether now yesterday I got very excited about the idea of having multiple audio streams. Right now, you're recording on a separate device. I'm recording on a separate device. Whereas what you've been doing here is a single place that we can coordinate that. I wonder whether this is post-processing, so that I upload an audio file, you upload an audio file. We have some kind of handshake at the start that allows it to sync up, and then it's just a matter of transcription. Not to be too simplistic about it, but that is the end product, as in that's the golden part, because we can then put in those two transcriptions, combine the audios. All we need to do is to get some kind of start on it.
Yeah,
It doesn't
but
need to be a single browser-based thing, because this is, you're saying, what I'm getting the sense is this is getting more and more complex, whereas there is the CRM to do, and I really want to get on with the Commander, and maybe there is a junky kind of duct tape way of doing it for now. And we can come back.
no, I think it's just running away from the problem. The problem is that we feel like we can make code really fast, and this was an example of where it felt like I should be able to do it. And it
Yes, that's
right?
different. That's a different problem.
And that's the problem I'm trying to explain now, is that like there are still errors, but I feel like I'm getting a handle on them.
So what are the heuristics then? Or I'm very happy for you to continue to go through your thought process here.
Yeah, I can. It sounds like you're bored, so I'll skip to the end of the.
No, I'm not bored at all. I'm fascinated.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll finish off the report then.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I made it connect up Supabase, which is just a database and blob storage system, and it's doing a pretty good job of it, I think. If it would load, I mean, it doesn't seem to like being in this headset browser thing. I think.
It's just a mirror of your laptop, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but it's just it's just not playing nice. Okay, and so this is where we got to with it, which is actually pretty fast, I gotta say, in terms of doing some stuff. It's got some great features that I can roll back to previous versions, and so I can sort of show you how it all looked. Or
that's nice.
It's really nice.
I don't know about VO.dev.
The reason why I wanted to talk about VO.dev in depth is that this is an example of what having some tooling behind a bot does for you, because I can fork this. So I'll make a fork of this chat just because I want to show you something and I don't want it to break. Like I was sort of in the middle of something. So here I forked it and I got this brand new thing. And then I can say something like, change all the avatars to buttons. And then what's cool to watch is that it whirs away. and you can see it building the actual files here. Right?
Very nice of it.
And then it rolls through. It can edit multiple files all at once, and then it loads up your app. You can go start recording, blah 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 blah, stop recording, and now it has an error, but I'll fix that. And so it's really quite, I can delete participants, so that's altering the database. I can select my microphone. I can change my name, I think. No name change. But the code files that run it is probably more important. Is that it's I haven't written any code today. I've read a lot of code, sort of not that much. It's got like diffs of it, what changed. You can roll back, roll forwards, restore, all that. And so it may not be the smartest AI, but the thing is, the UI and the way that they've structured the strategy of how the AI systematically goes through every file, how they make it so you've got this preview that's just in line, and then I can literally just click one button and I'll deploy it, and then it'll be public on the web, and then it's ready to go, and that's it. And I think Vercel really nailed that in terms of the workflow, where it's like I didn't have to use GitHub, I didn't have to use, I just they made it really, really easy.
That's interesting. Where were the frustration points using this tool?
It forgets. It doesn't build up a spec in the background. Like, it doesn't keep track of the things I said I wanted. And so it can sort of make changes. Like, see how here it's got this round button here for an avatar. That was actually supposed to be, I had all the buttons how I wanted it several versions ago, and then that changed.
So
it might be because I keep forking the chat because I like to sort of save it at a particular point. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
Yes, this is, I think you're onto something here.
But I guess...
So the spec is really fundamental to the trigger point, and it should ask you whether you want to change, in this instance, the icons, shape of the icons.
Yeah, there's no background spec being built up, and the reason that's a problem is because there should be a spec, and it should sort of carry these intents of mine or restrictions, requirements of mine forwards. It's just the problem that this begs for us is those are just tweaks on a system. We don't need to concern ourselves with that, and we don't want to get into the game of trying to present a platform that just solves different kinds of problems, because these guys, they're doing a great job and they're just going to get better. And so we don't really want to be competing with them. And so what do we well, what do we do, right? Like, because you're trying to do things that are reasoning. Like, you're trying to do hardcore reasoning on like definitions and strategies and all that, right? And that's a nightmare. And you don't even have a tool really, or a platform that's even built for that. Like, I'm lucky as a dev, everyone's been trying to make tools for me for years. And so, making a tool of ours that was good at reasoning seems like a good thing. But, like a tool like this is a complicated tool to make. It's not a lot of AI. It's a lot of conventional coding and a lot of evals to make this kind of thing come together.
So what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that I don't know. I keep losing sight of what we are to do, because a lot of the things that we're talking about doing end up being cosmetic changes to how people use the AI in a platform. And if you run that out to its course, you basically get overtaken, except under a small number of circumstances, like a Dreamcatcher-like environment. But, like if I look at this platform and I'm like, it's pretty good. If it was decentralized and I could retrieve money from the things I made, would it be that much cooler
Yeah.
or not?
Well, that's our big bet. If you align incentives through contribution and attribution, then people will come onto the platform because why wouldn't you? You're not going to get ripped off.
Well, there's good reason why you wouldn't, because these tools are going to be extremely polished and they're going to be just cheap and ready to go.
But they're secondary. So I've been thinking a lot about our conversation about what we're using O3 when it drops to do, and attribution. Everything I've thought about listening to, we're talking about reinforced attribution is the thing that we need O3 to do, because of exactly what you just said. This is periphery. Who knows how much money these guys have got?
A lot.
Well,
Yeah.
well, maybe they got a lot. Maybe they're burning a lot. Maybe they're going to go out of business in 5 months because there's going to be O5, and it goes boom. We're in the Somme. We don't know whether the guy next to us is about to be shot through the head. And so, what is the target that we're going through?
Right.
You have the conch.
Yeah, so I guess it's frustrating, I guess, because I'm like, it feels like, the system should be better as it stands, but it's probably not far off it. Like, it's pretty good, this thing right now. O1 Pro is kind of not great at UI. Like, it's a bit hopeless at UI. This thing's way better at UI. O1's good at architecture. O1's good at server side. This app was heavily trained on Vercel's libraries and infrastructure, so it all works smoothly because it's trained to do that. We don't really. I mean, we'll have the artifact library and then we'll train AI on that to be familiar with it, but I'm like, that's sort of. It's dabbling in a space that doesn't feel like the one we want to be in. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty keen to get this done for you, and I think I can do it in. I'm gonna say another day, and I really do think it's worth doing because it's like an actual delivered useful thing that was prompted, and then surely the first time you ever do it is surely that's the slowest ever, and so where you get to like actual fucking things hitting the middle, that's what counts.
I think it's worthwhile because we both got quite giddy at how fast code could be delivered, but when it comes down to the nuts and the bolts, that's what you're experiencing now.
Yeah, and it's a healthy thing to experience.
It's really useful. So it could be any other app, but we've got this app that is going to be actually accelerating the commander side. So
yeah,
yes.
yeah. And then, okay, so the reason why it took so long is actually it didn't take so long. What took long was to go down other paths and realize they were wrong. But even in the scheme of things, even that wasn't that long. Like if I sat back and tried to account for how far it would have taken me alone to cover this amount of ground, or me with, say, one or two other devs to cover this amount of ground, you'd be looking at maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4. And we're here after, let's call it 2 days, all up.
Even less than that, I reckon. It's very interesting to see this process. But again, the thing I think it behooves us to concentrate on is where the friction points are, because this is not a magic carpet. It is just a faster bicycle than everyone else.
Yeah, so understanding the pain points is really good. But there's something else I'm struggling to get across here. Like, by conventional means, this was not fast. By our means, it was slow. But it was slow because I had to actually do all the details. The code is being generated at this massive rate. Yes. But it still doesn't save you from having to think about what it is that you want and to understand what the bot is sending you. You can't just magically gesture and be like, "I'll make it like that." You actually still have to really think about it and work really hard to understand what you want, because it's almost like that was always the problem anyway, but it was hidden amongst the difficulty of code. I feel exhausted actually after this last couple of days, because it feels like I've had non-stop back-to-back team meetings with really smart devs that are still getting it wrong, which is an exhausting experience to go through, right?
I'll share my experience on the other side, which is very similar. So I'm trying to build, how do you construct the correct architecture for knowledge such that you can get a context to an AI and be very specific. That problem, so it's easy to say, but actually having to think about that, even with O1 Pro helping me, it takes a lot of heavy lifting on the monkey brain side. And the testing it is easy. Spotting where it's gone wrong is quite hard, because the wrong is quite subtle.
Yeah, wrong's not obvious.
It's interesting that we're looking at the same problem of how to use. Now, if we assume now our stated goal of making sure we're prepared for O3, if we assume O3 is just going to be even a smarter bunch of devs, then I think it comes back to what we were saying the other day about the art of weaving these devs together. It doesn't really come down to tools. BO dev, I'm sure those guys are like sweating it, like we are sweating it, but they're producing one tool. Really what we should be doing is using these tools exactly that where you've just been doing it, and learning about where it goes wrong and where it goes right.
It's because we really want to be making the tool that makes the tools. Like, we want to be a platform so that if you use VO and you're like, it's really good, but I wish it did this. Well, you're not really going to be able to go into V0 and make that change. But on our platform, you would be able to change the core itself to behave in some way that you wanted, and you could get paid for it. And so maybe that's the thing to keep focusing on, really, is an ecosystem whereby you can allow rapid economic incentives to take place to fork anything you like, any good idea, so that you don't end up with like 1,000 flowers blooming and competing for the daylight. You get the optimum number of flowers because people can just, you know, make a new thing by dropping an idea into a pool.
I agree. And we're bootstrapping up here, and we need a few tools, of which this is, in my mind, the most important one that would make my life so much easier.
Right.
But also in producing it, you're getting experience. However, that point you just made about making the machine that makes the machine is really where we're at. And then we point that at the attribution algorithm, because otherwise, short of AGI, there are going to be people who are going to be turning up. And how do you get them to do stuff where they could choose not to?
It's really, the attribution is really the only thing that's going to set us apart in any way. But along with the attribution comes this necessity to be able to fork anything as well. Like, AMI attribution demands liberal forking of everything at the same time, including the platform itself.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess if I was to say how long I spent, I'd say maybe 2/3 of a day on this version to get it to here. I really think that if I knew what I was doing and I was doing this again, probably it would only take me half a day, I think, which is a good amount of time. That's how long it should take. But the issue also is that I'm starting to learn that all these tools, they work with existing frameworks like Supabase and other such tools, and so Artifact looks a little bit weird in that sense because, you know, Supabase has all these features, so why not use that? And so it's sort of it's going to be a bit of a struggle to defend why Artifact even needs to be, versus it could just be using AI tools to make conventional code using these like fabulous services that take care of everything for you. And then it's like, well, are we just a dev shop at that point? Or is the Dreamcatcher like an attribution mechanism for making development products or development outputs? These are perplexing questions.
Pause. I'll make a couple of assertions, which may or may not be correct. We'll find out. Services like these will pop up because it's easy to pop up services like these, and they will disappear because it will be difficult when we've got a wave of everyone's got access to the same tools. That being said, we shouldn't rely on any one particular tool. We should be able to hot swap in anything that does something that allows the NAP to do its job. The second part is we don't want to be in the realm of making tools except for short-term tactical gains like cash. We need to be in the realm of how do we point people through attribution, which I'm very much of the mind that that is the thing that nobody's interested in at the moment. It's
Okay,
like
so how do we get to attribution from where we're sitting here? We don't feel very close. How do we get there?
We're not close.
Okay, well,
So I know the next step, I think, towards it, which is we're not going to come up with attribution ourselves. O3 is going to, with us, come up with attribution.
When you say come
And
up with attribution, you're talking about formulas that can be applied, prompts, other types of basically techniques or strategies by which attribution can be calculated that people are kind of okay with.
correct. We've got the baseline, which is contribution is always stored.
Right.
Attribution as a LaTeX algorithm, or probably multiple ones where anyone can inspect it and
Right.
nobody feels ripped off, I think is the thing.
Okay. So are we then trying to get to the position of work becomes largely like having a chat with a bot, having a chat with a friend? The bots extract all the novelty and they go off and do the work. And so the attribution relies on the contribution having been captured effectively. And so really the main purpose of Artifact is contribution capture in an immutable way that's still very rapid and light. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I've been thinking about a lot, which is why we had that call about the recording app to make sure that the diarization is accurate.
Mm.
I've been thinking about the next step. I don't know whether this is the right way yet, but it seems that there are things that are assertions, simple brute facts. There seems to be areas of discussion where there's a probability, and there seems to be areas of dissension. Now, recording that may overwhelm the file system. I don't know, but it seems to me that that knowledge structure is how people progress. And um, if you don't have the assertions that everyone agrees with, you're nowhere. If you don't
Yeah,
have
so
the dissensions,
there's also another piece that's starting to come into focus too, which is something like it's like a Wikipedia for LLMs, because the training, you can't expect the training to be the thing that holds the knowledge. The training captures the behavior or the execution characteristics, but
yes,
we need these libraries of little assertions that have been reasoned about, reconciled, voted on, some kind of stake to say type of a situation where people have put money against the correctness of it, and so they earn royalties. And so this big vast library of knowledge that an agent can pull on that's not in its training data, that starts to appear like something that's valuable. It's like the internet for bots, the internet for AIs.
yes, absolutely. And the way I'm starting to think about it is that the training data is learning a language that you can, talk backwards and forwards and recall facts and so on. But that's not the topic that you're about to speak about. Remember
No,
that
no.
flame front. But when you're talking about it and it's still uncertain, then I think there's these three levels of, right, we've agreed this, we've got dissenting this, and we've got minority report here. But allowing the bot to concentrate just down on that and its training data will be really precise, I think. I
Yeah.
don't know. That's the route I'm going down on the knowledge architecture.
Okay.
You have the conch.
Well, that's it, buddy. That's all I got, really.
Speak easy.
Speak easy.
This is hard
Dude, this is the
stuff to think
hardest
about.
thing I've ever done.
It's and it's interesting though that stuff that you've encountered in VO Dev is very similar to the stuff that I'm encountering on a completely different realm. I mean, you're producing code. I'm thinking about a knowledge architecture. We're both using AIs, and we're both coming to like a fundamental, which is basically you need to think, you need to be at the top of your game and think very, very carefully about what's just been done, because you've got a very smart bunch of devs who'll go
Yeah,
off and do it.
there's some kind of a limit to how much you can actually do in a day. Actually, like it's more than what you can do now, but it's still this limit because you still got to process it all and be like, yeah, maybe that's right,
Well,
maybe that's not.
yes, yesterday this is just random, but because my laptop failed, I had I was looking at busy bars while I was trying to do a bare metal restore, and that gave me about 2 hours of just basically staring at the wall and thinking about this. And it's almost like that 2 hours of apparently doing nothing was really valuable. Was the one of the most valuable 2 hours I've done in maybe this month. Um, I don't know how to express it, but having that headspace where you're not talking to the bot, because the bot adds a lot of new information and you're trying to understand what it's
Yeah,
saying.
and noise.
Yeah, and because my laptop, like I said, neat, um, all I had was just me and, you know, uh, an A4 paper pad. Start to think properly about it, and then come back to it. The question that you gave the other day about what is this skill, and we were starting to talk about is more of an art now. I think that's what we're starting to kind of skirt around here, um, because everything is amplified. Slightly shit is amplified into very, very shit. Uh, Slightly good is amplified into actually quite good. Really good is amplified into perfect. Um, and it's that amplification process. So I can go off the speakeasy and we'll go back onto the topic of the knowledge structure, if you like.
Sure.
Okay, so and speakeasy. The thing that I'm thinking about is how do you structure knowledge over time from different people in order to give the AI something to really get its teeth into. Now, I mentioned previously on another transcript about longitudinal knowledge. We're talking about making sure that diarization is absolutely accurate. I think both those things are important. Then taking each of those, what is I've been calling it a moat, what is the chunk of knowledge, which I think the chunk of knowledge, in the same way as we had a definition, the definition is right for until it's proven wrong. So, if in conversations the definition is changed, then that trigger point, which you came up with, is met. Then we need to revisit that definition. How does that work in terms of ongoing ideas? And I think there's something similar to, or in proxy to, a definition, which is an idea, but that idea develops. Once it's certain, then by certain I mean nobody's arguing about it anymore. Then it's one thing. If there's an idea that's still being worked out between people, that's another thing. And then there's this third piece, which is a minority report saying, well, yeah, I was part of the conversation, but I still disagree. Now, how to store these things, and interestingly enough, Concat is an awesome tool for slicing and dicing a very large knowledge base. I think we'll find that Concat is going to be our friend for years now. It's like, right, I'm talking about this. I want to know what we've agreed. I want to know what the minority report was. Maybe the guy who is sitting at the back saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
that's not
You lost me,
correct."
buddy. You lost me. Too many things. What's the
Okay.
point?
The My only point is in this is a difficult and complex area, and I was just giving you a verbal update, but there is a lot around this knowledge structure. My question would be, practically speaking, is there a limit on the number of files that Concat can bring in, and how can I do that slice and dice without,
Do you need it now, or is it?
no,
Yeah.
no,
So
I don't need it now.
how Concat's going to evolve is that once we have our own platform running, Concat will disappear, and it will be a case of you will have files in a file system, and you will select them to be the context, where that selection might be done automatically for you. So, like if you take a look at how V0 is doing it here, they are they're basically deciding that they're going to change, okay, this file, right? And so they select from the files to choose what the context is going to be, and then they apply the tool to each one individually. And so that's how Concat will evolve. You will be able to manually select your context and say, I only want to talk about this. There'll also be ways that the context, if you wish, can be automatically figured out for you based on all the available files. One thing appears abundantly clear. If you get your context as narrow as it can be, that's when you'll get your best result back, because the fault of the bot appears to be that if you, no matter what information you give it, it considers it all, because it thinks, well, you gave it to me, you did give it to me for a reason. So it thinks everything's important, every token's important, but it might not be. And so we can simulate that with a pass beforehand. Future models might be better at recognizing what's irrelevant within the window that they passed, maybe. Who knows? But yeah.
Yes, no, I absolutely agree. And now again, I'm just doing this in paper and pencil at the moment. We'll see how it works. But there does seem to be a need inside of Commander to self-select from the knowledge graph what it needs to consider based on this new information that it's getting.
Yep.
So anyway, that's it sounds really kind of straightforward and obvious when I say it, but it's hard to actually grind it in your own meat brain.
It's very very
things can.
frustrating, all this stuff. It's like, it feels, we know it's magic. It feels so easy, and then you go to do something and it's easy to get to 80%, and the last 20% might just kill you. And so we have in mind a platform that can do a lot of these things and make it easier for us. But I'm just wary, like we don't really want to be in the game of platforms. But what you're saying is we should stick to the plan of being in the game of attribution, and you need a place for that to occur, and that's what the platform does.
Yes, in order to do attribution, the tooling is like your example of who made the first precision tool to make the first
Yeah,
precision tool.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
where we're at.
And then the other part of me is like, well, we could just go and make cool stuff.
Right, it'd be so easy. It would be so easy, but fuck it. Do you want to do that? I don't know.
So, well, sort of. I mean, it's sort of fun.
I sort of want to like give you the kitchen, and it's like I know I can't afford it, and it's like it'd be so easy to make fucking 100 grand or 500 grand if I went off to California for a year.
I
And
know.
it's like, but I really my soul dying because I think we're onto something here that actually is really important that nobody else seems to be getting.
You're right, eh? No one really mentions attribution, and we only really need a platform to be able to do the attribution on.
Yeah.
We only need artifact because it acts as the system of record for the contribution. We only need, yeah.
And ultimately, all we need is files, folders, and a model, and that model can race away to the moon. As far as we're concerned, it's just going to make it better.
Yeah,
Files,
so we need
folders,
like a massive Git repo and agents that can load up files and run them as tools.
Which kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because those individual files are nuggets, but you can't have everything all at once because then it doesn't know what's important, and so you make it know what's important by constraining the context. The more constrained the context, the more important it thinks each nugget is. And that seems to be it.
So a massive unlimited size Git repo with forking, branching, and files and folders, and a serverless compute environment to run code that's sitting on the Git repos, and LLMs that can call the tools and read the files and modify the files and tools, and then humans that are observing all this and guiding the LLMs to do their bidding, which hopefully makes the whole system right. But those components appear to survive, right? Those components are forever.
Right. And not only do we have the trigger point of how do you change each of these nuggets, but we have the history of the nuggets.
Okay.
Question. Am I getting too deep in this knowledge architecture? Do we need to go down to this level?
We do not.
Okay.
What we need is things like stux that declare ambient attribution and all the things that come before that, like what are the components of it.
It's typical bootstrapping, isn't it? Yes, I agree. And along the way,
then watch out. The knowledge structure is incredibly dangerous. I've hit a bit of a rabbit hole with just this generating the recorder, but it really has only been 2 days, and there is an end to it. The knowledge structure has been ongoing for years, and there might not be an end to it. It might actually not be an answerable thing, and so that's why it's a dangerous problem. It's illusionary.
Well, here's the unhumble thing to say, but because we're simplifying it through GitHub, which is what it is, and a model, I don't think there's anything else needed.
Well, okay, so where's your time going on it then? Why is it taking time still?
Well, only really started talking about this since our previous one when we were saying that you're going to do the CRM, I'm going to do the knowledge structure. So we're still only 2 days into it. Um, but it seems
I don't know.
self-evident to me, unless there's something else I've missed.
I don't understand what the work is to be done with a knowledge structure.
The knowledge structure is for. This is why I phoned you up yesterday morning, saying we need to get diarization correct
Yeah,
because each of these are nuggets. Those nuggets need to be. If we've got a mind on attribution, we need to know who said what and what was the decision, and are there any contraindications? Are there any minority reports, and so on.
but
Then
does
the
it matter
next.
though to get attribution out of a recording when we also have a wealth of other information that we can use for getting attribution out of anyway? Are you saying that you want this pristine level diarization so that you can do attribution? Is that the primary purpose?
No, the prime purpose is to give high quality information to the commander.
Okay, all right. Well, that's valuable. But what are you trying to do with the knowledge that you get? The reason why I'm poking at this is because if it feels like we need to build the artifact platform in a way that we can do some of the work of the commander in an automated way. So, without copy paste, without concat, without O1 Pro, but at least it'll be automated. And so
Um,
spending time on something that's ultimately going to be automated away is unwise.
no, I disagree because automated away, as you've seen in your last 12 hours of work, the automation is kind of right, but you really kind of need to understand it first. Otherwise, you're going to be asking it to do the wrong thing.
No, because I'm using automation. You're sort of not.
I disagree. I'm using automation as in I'm talking to bots a lot.
Right. But my point is that once we have even a small amount of platform level automation, such as NAP to NAP communication, which you've been asking for, your what happens to the amount of time it will take you to do the tasks ahead of you right now?
I think once we get NAP to NAP and very clear signal to noise ratio, which is
Pristine
the task
diarization.
driver.
Yep.
Yep. That's it for now. I'm sure something else will come along.
Didn't answer my question. The time it takes you to do the things that you're going to do right now with the knowledge structure, how long will it take you now versus how long would it take you if you had NAP to NAP communication available to you as a tool?
NAP to NAP communication would be maybe a 10x improvement in the time because of the overhead of cutting and pasting with multiple tabs
Okay.
and interruptions, etc.
Okay. So therefore, you should spend your time on something else that isn't going to have a 10x improvement as soon as we have this platform piece up, right?
Okay. What would that thing be?
Should be anything but. Like, we need to find it, is what I'm saying. I'm just why I'm poking at this is because I just made like a month's worth of code progress in a couple of days. We don't have we need to be spending our time on things that have amplification of our effort. If you can be sped up by 10 times if you just had NAP to NAP communication, what that should do is put extra pressure on me to say, get that nap-to-nap communication going ASAP. And it should also signal to you that the best thing to do is wait on that task until and find anything else that's more valuable.
That's essentially what I've been doing. So nap to nap and clear signal to noise in diarization.
Yep. Okay.
Is what I'm waiting on. And in the meantime, I'm doing some pre-thinking because I've nothing else really to do, as it were.
Okay. Is there something else?
Nothing immediately comes to mind.
Well, fuck, that's annoying. That's like back to where we fucking started.
Because it's such an explosion. Once we get those two things, it's such an explosion that then the ball is going to be back in my court to use those tools. But without those tools, I'm cutting and pasting backward and forwards tabs and so on. And
cutting and pasting sucks. V0 is pretty sweet. Curse is pretty good, but I think V0 is better. And having our own custom platform would be the best, because we could have full control over the bots, and O3, when it arrives, we'll just plug it straight in and be like, ta-da. So, what the fuck, Maxwell?
Well, I hate to say this, man, but I'm kind of waiting on a tool to give clear diarization and
all right, well, I guess I should stop talking and get on with it then.
And in the meantime, I'm just thinking about, okay, so as I said yesterday, I got 20 minutes, which was hand kind of separate diarization together to see if that worked. And that's what led to my thinking about, well, what then? But this is all kind of pre-work, as it were.
Okay. Plug it, man.
Yeah. Sorry to put the pressure on you. But...
No, that's cool. Okay, so I'll get the diarization out, and then I'll switch to getting the MoneyWorks connector up for the CRM guys. And then I'll try and work in nap to nap along with doing work for them.
Yeah, cool. And in the meantime, I've kind of gone about as far as I think is useful in the knowledge structure until we've got something that proves me wrong. However, the reason I asked for you to record this separately on a separate device, we're kind of, duct taping together.
Yeah, duct taping.
What we're doing.
Okay, so should I just go ahead and make the CRM just using like Supabase or some existing database thing that V0 knows about very well, and it can kind of just auto-generate the code, and they can just have a conventional app because that's really what they wanted. They didn't ask for any AI stuff. Like they just wanted an app that helped their business run better. They didn't ask for AI, and now they're held up because we're insisting that they need AI, which seems a little bit.
Well, that's the conversation that we had last time, wasn't it? Whether we just use AI as a tool in order to give them code, which just does what they want,
and then we can sort of chuck in AI to it later, or I don't know, like because to get them something working, I got to make a very basic version of Artifact again, which I think I can do. But then I'm like, well, these other tools like Supabase and all those things, they work. They work good.
Man, I don't know. Fucking hell, I don't
and then if we don't do that, you're saying, and I'm agreeing, that the fundamentals of the future are made of this massive Git database, an execution engine that's serverless, that's native, Git native, and LLMs that are really just executions on that block, on that structure, but they're a bit special because they're inference as opposed to classical code. And those three things make the world go round. And now we're talking about maybe I don't make one of those three things just because we want to satisfy some very loyal, long-suffering supporters of ours.
Well, here's a thought to answer that. We can continue with duct tape and epoxy resin in terms of transcriber, and nap to nap. We can do
Nap to
infrared.
nap sounds more important than transcriber, I gotta say.
Well, I'm very interested to see how this conversation goes because, you know.
So this will be a good test because it might actually not be that much better.
Right.
Yeah.
This is.
Yeah, that's a
we
good
might
point.
be like, let's forget that.
Yeah. Because I mean, I was trying to build this stuff with the eye that it would just be a widget on the surface, anyway. And it's sort of, I wanted it to not really matter. Like I wanted it to be plugged into Artifact, and then it's like it either works or it doesn't. But who cares?
I know, but you've got your voice recorder on. I've got my voice recorder on. We've got 2 audio tracks. I'm hoping this works. And then that gets me what I want in terms of the high signal to noise ratio for diarization.
Yeah, because now I'm hitting this thing where it's like, it wants me to have user accounts because I need to have permissions because you can't just open a site to let people upload. And it's like going against the grain there. And I'm like, maybe.
And even nap to nap, I'm getting around because what I've been doing, instead of nap to nap, I've been doing it all in thread.
Yeah, maybe it's just
context.
Maybe the best thing is to just be trying to build this very basic version of Artifact, enough to satisfy the CRM guys, because it's just a database. It's just a database, and I can use O1 Pro and Deno to build just this big ass Git database.
Yeah, I think so. And best part is no part, right? If we can do this simply by agreeing, and sometimes we'll get it wrong, but we're agreeing that we've got separate voice recorders on both sides, and we've got the YouTube thing that deals with that. The nap to nap, you can actually, Pro is good enough now that you can give it, even in threads, new instructions, and the use of summaries is really good. So it's like summarize everything that we just talked about, and then you take that summary and ingest the previous thread, and the new thread is like, right, got it. So it doesn't drift. All this is just cut and paste. So is it the fastest way of doing it? No. But does it do it? Kinda. It'd be lovely if we had the tools to do it. But in terms of what you're asking, what we should be doing, I come back to our previous assertion, which is you're on CRM, I'm on knowledge base. I'm using.
Yeah, because it's like, man, I know I can do this thing, but I'm like, should it?
I feel slightly guilty because I kind of threw you a squirrel yesterday morning. It's like, oh, right, and you went down this path, and you got.
I learned a lot. No, I learned a lot, and it was an essential path because it had to be done at some point anyway.
Yeah,
it's just that maybe the right path is to build the basic version of Artifact to get nap to nap communication going, because that's actually one of the pillars of the whole system, right?
Yeah.
Because to say those three things again, right? Artifact, which is this massive Git network, NAPS, which is the execution environment and protocol for executing in a Git compatible way, and then LLMs, which are not even really that different to NAPS. They're sort of just a very special kind of NAP.
LLMs are just the engine. Is like, plugging, your server into the wall to get power. Yeah, of course you need to do it, but
But they're just another program.
yeah,
They're special, but they're just another program. And
right,
then on the outside is humans who are sort of guiding this whole thing. But if we can
yeah,
present that system and it's
uh,
tokenless, like it's tokenomics, the page in the white paper that represents tokenomics is just a blank page that says there is no token, go do something useful. That's sort of
yeah. I agree. I would add in something more that there's something like, when you get a rack of servers, and the architecture of which servers are plugged in and which ports are open and that sort of thing. That's
yeah.
what I'm talking about, the knowledge architecture. But that is necessary but not sufficient for what we're trying to do. Um, so it's just work to be done. But so in um, my my proposal is that you drop this. We continue the duct tape version of recording voices independently. I'll take this conversation and see if that works. If it does, let's leave it for another time. Nap to nap, yes, absolutely. However, even that, um, with cut and paste, I can fake that. Um, the experience that you had using these tools to generate code, I think you would get as well generating the CRM. And given that the CRM is a real world problem, let's solve that real world
Okay, buddy.
problem.
All right, I'll pause work on the recorder.
Yeah.
I'll take the lesson learned. I'll use V0 to develop the widgets that need to be shown for the CRM. And I'll build using O1 Pro and cut and paste. I'll build the code that makes the basic version of Artifact so that the CRM can run on it.
Agreed.
Okie dokie. That sounds like wise moves. The UI, I thought like it sort of degraded a bit with the latest round, but how I had it like after an hour's work this morning, I thought was banging. Like it looked good. It had like play controls for tracks, and it had like speed controls for all this, and it was like an hour and a half, and I had this thing, and I was like, that is beautiful. That is a beautiful thing in such little time.
And oh man, uh, the thing is, that tool would be fucking awesome. But the thing is it the best thing?
Is it the best use of time right now? No,
Yeah,
no, because you're right. We can learn those same lessons doing the CRM, doing Artifact. Yeah, it was nice to have a shot at it because I would love that tool, and I was just dreaming of ways that it would, do the transcriptions live, that it would plug into the commander eventually, and the commander would tell us what mode we're in, or give us, do all those things, right? So,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, it was a sobering experience, but man, it was like having all day, everyday stand ups with a bunch of devs. Just,
I've been describing it to Jude last night as I came back, and my brain felt raw. It's like what you're saying. It's like I don't know. I can't really describe it,
I've
but it
used
just
all
feels
my brain
raw.
power today,
It's
and I
like
can't explain why it feels like there's an abrasion on the inside of my head.
yeah, but that's the new skill to get good at.
It's hard, dude. Like God, I've never worked so hard on something. Like I've
Yeah,
never had
me
to
too.
think this hard before. I'm like, my
Yeah,
head, my poor head.
same
It just
here.
hurts.
I cannot honestly think of being the feeling that the goal is just at the fingertips out of reach,
Yeah,
and yet
yeah,
I'm treading water and trying to swim towards the bloody thing, and it keeps on getting
yeah,
pushed away.
yeah. So
Shall we
frustrating.
stop the recording and let's
Sure,
get it uploaded? And
sure. That's enough crying for one day, I'm sure.
well, obviously the audio continues.